Today I want to talk about series that have changed or impacted me in some way. I picked out my top 5 series, and I have grabbed some of them here, either the first book or a handful of books from them, or if they're in a box set, I have grabbed that as well. Now, these are not all going to be series that I still love and adore to this day, but these are series that have caused such a major shift in my life and impacted me in some significant way. I've read a lot of book series over the years. I know at one point I read the Mything series, Redwall, Series of Unfortunate Events, Lord of the Rings. I think 𝘊𝘥𝘥𝘪𝘮𝘢 was a series at one point. I know I read the Hardy Boys as a kid. I definitely read Nancy Drew. And all of those were great series. None of them impacted me as much as these books did. And we're gonna start off with the very first series, the one that I think this is the first book series I actually wrote fanfic for. And that's a little weird to admit, but it is. And that's the Warriors series. This is one of the book series that actually caused me to want to write. I absolutely adored everything about this series. I own the first three series. I have not reread this since I was in like middle school or something, probably even further back than that. So I haven't had a chance to see if it still holds to this day. I don't think it will. It's definitely made for much younger audiences, and there's probably some things in this that I wouldn't like today in my writing. But this book, as you can see, the very first one is very, very well worn. I have had this for so long, and this series, this is one of the books that sparked my love of reading and writing. I adored it so much. And I am so mad that now, all these years later, they finally have merchandise. There are finally plushies, keychains, little figurines. Where was that when I was 10 and reading this? I would have loved that. You guys have no idea how hard it has been to look on the Warriors website, see those plushies, and tell myself, I don't need it. I don't need it. I was the weird cat girl in school for how much I loved this book. Everyone thought that I was weird because I was one of the only kids in my school who was into this. But I loved the storytelling and the writing and the dynamics of the characters. If this had been humans instead of cats, I think people would have liked it more. But I adored animals, and that's why I loved this. And at the time, I had an orange cat. Not quite like this. Grendel was much more of an orange yellow tabby. I'll throw a picture of my baby up here. We just recently lost him. I miss him very much. But he was also one of the things I always thought of. I did have a cat as well. He ended up going missing, and we lost him. He was a little baby kitten, and I named him, I think it was Firefox? I think I named him Firefox. Or Firepaw. I named him something in regards to this book, and sadly he went missing as well. But that's how much I loved this. I was naming cats after these cats. So, I was the weird cat girl in school. I'm not afraid to admit it. The next one is another one that harkens back to early childhood days. And I'm going to remove the flap cover because I don't want the author's name to show, but everyone's gonna know, and I'm gonna shorthand this to HP. So everyone's gonna know what HP is, and I'm not going to say the author's name or the full title of the thing, but I do have to bring HP up because this book was honestly one of the first books I ever remember. My family read me these as bedtime stories. We would read a chapter or two together. That is how my mom got me and my brother into reading. This was one of the books we read, and as you can see, it's very old. These are the original copies we had from when I was a kid. They're all falling apart. I want to honestly, I kind of want to learn how to bind books so I can rebind these myself. So I've been looking into doing that. But these are the books that genuinely started me reading. These got me into reading, whereas Warriors got me into writing. And that writing eventually translated into HP as well. I ended up doing some fanfics for it. I've ended up coming up with ideas for it. And as much as I love this series, and I love the story, the world building, there's a lot of flaws in this book. There are so many little plot holes that I point out to myself and my friends, and so many characters that I think got really the short end of the stick in this book. And throughout the whole series, I finally finished it, I think, this year or last year. Yes, it's taken me from the ages of little baby 4-year-old learning books to now to finish it. But I finished it recently, and after having finished it, I was like, man, there's so many things that could have been better. And that's why this is like a love-hate relationship. Not just because of the author and how much I despise her, but also just because there's so many things that I now look at as a writer that I'm like, that could have been said so much better. This system doesn't actually work. That doesn't make sense for this character arc. Or these characters honestly don't fit together. And if you were to continue this book series, this would be tumultuous. Like, there's just so many little things that I would change throughout this entire book series that I honestly have not reread these. I read fanfic more than I read the actual books because the fanfic does it better. That's one of these series that I wholly stand by. The fanfic does it better. And someday I want to write my own HP style book. Someday I want to build a book series kind of like this, but better. I want to take all the little things about this that I hate, all the little tweaks in it, and I want to do that and apply it to my own wizarding or magic book. I have several ideas, none of which I've started writing yet, but I have many, many ideas of what to do with HP. Following that, we come to another series with an author that I'm not big on anymore. I don't like them as an author, but the books changed me, and the books also have a lot of plot holes in them. And that is the Mortal Instruments series. And I've specifically picked up these two, what are these? The Eldest Curses series, because this is my favorite of the series. These are my two favorite characters. Magnus and Alec were the two characters that made me fall in love with this book series. I was so mad that they weren't the main characters. So when they got their own series and it was written by both her and another author, I decided, yeah, let's look at these. And these are both really good. Honestly, compared to the original Mortal Instruments, just these two are better. Honestly. That may be a hot take, but I prefer these over the Mortal Instruments. And then so if I were to rank the book series right now, because I stopped reading it. I know there was a sequel series, but I stopped reading it. My favorites for this series are the Eldest Curses, then it would be the prequel trilogy, and then way, way down below is the Mortal Instruments, because there's so many things in the Mortal Instruments that could have been done better, that could have been written out better, plot points that didn't need to be there, and now knowing the history of the book and where it initially came from, I get why those plot points are there. We still didn't need them. I genuinely love Magnus and Alec, though, and I think these two are the two characters in the book who really should have gotten more spotlight. I love these two so, so much, and I'm so happy that they got a spin-off series. Magnus and Alec have both inspired a lot of other characters of mine, and they reminded me of characters that I had wanted to see in books. I loved them so much. And I don't know how much of the history of the books are completely true, but if I'm understanding the fanfic, the copyright, all that BS that has gone on with the author, Magnus may be one of the only original characters in this, and that sucks, because he is such a good character, and he is her only OG character that is, completely hers. And that sucks, because I don't want him to be, because I don't like her. Magnus is a very good, benchmark for me as well, because it honestly was because of Magnus Bane that I kind of realized I might be bisexual. As wild as that is, he was the first character in a book I had ever heard call themselves bisexual, and that is kind of where I started learning about that, was because of him. So that's part of why these series are so important to me, because if I hadn't had these books, I probably never would have learned that. I learned what asexuality was through one of my other friends, which is part of my other identity, but I never knew what bisexuality was, and it wasn't until these books that I learned it. And so these books, and this character specifically, really helped me find my identity. And that's why they mean so much to me. Specifically these ones in the prequels, I cannot stand the original series now. The original series drives me insane. And I literally took my hardback books and turned them into book boxes for my friends. Because I didn't want to give the books away. I really didn't. So I took the hardback versions of the books that I didn't like, and I repurposed them into something for my friends. And I'm really happy I did that because I wasn't going to ever reread them. I didn't want to see them on my shelves, and that made me feel 10 times better, honestly. So I definitely don't recommend the original series. I don't recommend, like, fully supporting her as an author, but, like, if you get a chance to read at least these two, I'd give these two a shot. I do like Magnus and Alec and their storylines. It's really, these ones are much better written than the original series. It's a lot of hot takes that might get me in hot water, but we're gonna go with it. Next up on the list, and I have not finished this series yet, I still need to read the third book, and that was the 𝘊𝘥𝘪𝘮𝘥𝘪𝘮 for food, or for cash. What is it? Will save the galaxy for food, will destroy the galaxy for cash. I've already forgotten what the third book is called. I know it's out. I haven't had a chance to read it. I don't have a way of getting it yet. But this series revamped my love for sci-fi because I was struggling with too many sci-fi books that were too hard to digest. And then 𝘊𝘥𝘥𝘪𝘮𝘥 came out with this, and this was digestible, it was funny, it was entertaining. Like, this made me love reading again. This book series really got me back to reading. And it inspired Planet 737. It helped me come up with a lot of stuff for that book. And 𝘊𝘥𝘥𝘪𝘮 just in general is an inspiring person. Like, 𝘊𝘥𝘥𝘥𝘪𝘮 is, for those who don't know, 𝘊𝘥𝘥𝘪𝘮 used to be the head runner for a show on YouTube called The Escapist, and a show called 𝘂𝘍 on that. When they got stuck in some, not legal trouble, but they got, like, bought out by a bigger company, and they wanted to change the way The Escapist was done, and they wanted to change the whole branding, 𝘊𝘥𝘥𝘪𝘮 said no, and him and his crew left and made their own company, Second Wind, whom I follow and support as well right now. And that is just seeing him stick to his guns and stick to being true to himself and not give in, like so many other people in this industry do, was so nice to see. Now he gets to continue to make his video content, work with video games, work on his books. Like, I love this man so much. He is such an inspirational person, and he definitely revitalized my love for writing and reading together in one. If you like funny sci-fi and kind of like, not low-key, but kind of low-key sci-fi, it's definitely more of a comedy, but it's a nice, chill, funny comedy sci-fi. Start with Will Save the Galaxy for food, and then Will Destroy the Galaxy for cash, and eventually I'm gonna read the third one. That is like top tier on my list of books that I need to read. And the final series, which should be no surprise to anyone who has been following my writing content recently, is the Gentleman Bastard sequence. This book series revolutionized writing for me. I had like 𝘊𝘥𝘥𝘪𝘮𝘥 brought me back to books. He did. He really brought me around to books. But the Gentleman Bastards brought me back to my love of characters and just characters and story building and fun writing. Like, this is the type of fantasy that I have been looking for, and I stumbled across it through one of my booktubers, and I was like, okay, this sounds really interesting. I'll give it a chance. Because it also had come up, specifically Red Seas Under Red Skies came up when I was looking for pirate books for Searching for Home, and I was like, it's a second one in the book, I'm not sure about it. And then my booktuber recommended it continuously all the time. She adores this series about as much as I do now. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna read this. And that was the best choice I ever made. This story is, there's, like, from what I've seen, I have not found plot holes yet, and that is such a huge win, which is hilarious, that's a win. Not having plot holes in your book is a win now for me. That says something about the authors I've been reading. I know. I need to be better about the authors that I'm reading. But there were no plot holes. Everything made sense. Even choices that I did not like still made sense. Even though I didn't like it, it made sense logically for the story, for the characters and everything. I wasn't mad at the author, I was mad at the characters. And that's a sign of a good book, is when you're mad at the characters and not the author. And I know Scott Lynch is working very hard and doing his absolute best to get the next book out to us, and I will patiently wait for my entire life for that book, because this is one of the best book series that I have read in a long time, and I will preach to anyone who will listen to me about the Gentleman Bastard sequence, because this book series is so good. It is so well written. This is the kind of prose that I want to write in my books, and it gives me a lot of inspiration. And like, character-wise, especially, because this book is really good with characters. Building characters that you love, getting to know characters, both good and bad, and just feeling for characters. Like, I love books a lot, but I love characters more. And this book series gave me characters. Like, there are a lot of books that I will read that I don't feel like I know the characters. Like, as much as I love HP, there are a lot of characters in there that fall flat. They don't have a lot of dynamic. There's not a lot to them. And you don't ever really grow to love or hate them. You're just kind of indifferent to them. I have loved everyone in this book, even if I've hated them. The villains make sense. Everything is, like, logical to the world that he is building. And this is a complete fantasy world too. He has built his own entire world in this book series, which is just impressive. And this makes me want to read more fantasy like this. I know there's a handful of books that I have recommended to me from friends and that I've just found through searching for fantasy books that I will be reading as well at some point. Like, oh, what is it? I don't remember the name of the series, but I'm gonna throw it up here because I know that it's on one of my, like, top ones to read next. That series I will be starting at some point, as well as this series. These two I will be reading at some point, so don't recommend me those. They're already on the list. This, though, is my most recent and my most favorite series. This is amazing, and that's why, like, I hadn't even finished reading them. I read the first one, fell in love with it, started the second one, and said, I need to own this. And I bought this 3-pack. I think this came from Britain, but I bought it. And I was like, no, I need this whole series. And sure, yeah, when the next book comes out, this will be out of date, but I don't care. I wanted this box set right now. This was amazing, and this is everything I love about books. Right here. Everything I love about writing and about books. Those are my top 5 book series that have impacted me and changed me in some way. Obviously, as you can see, like I said, not all of them I care about. There's quite a few authors now that I read when I was younger that I have learned who they really are as a person, and I'm like, we don't support you in this household. Please go away. Mainly the author of HP. Like, I cannot fathom at this point spending money on any HP content. Like, I cannot bring myself to do it because I know it supports the author. Which is why, again, I think what I'll do is learn how to bind myself or pay somebody to, like, rebind it. Because it's oh god. This is not nearly as bad as the third one. The third HP book is the worst of all, but I will eventually work on rebinding those. Because they do mean something to me, and these are the actual books that I read as a kid and that were read to me. So I do want to keep them because they are that sentimental to me. Like, I'm fairly positive some of these little, like, colorations on the spine and in the pages are from markers or crayons that I got a hold of as a child. I was a menace. I wanted to share these all with you, though, so you guys could get a little bit more about me and books that I read and what I kind of gravitate towards when reading. That way, if there's anything you guys want to recommend me reading, you can comment it down below, and I will definitely be sure to check it out. I don't read as fast as a lot of people do. I think my reading pace, because of my dyslexia, is considered slow because I have to be so cautious when reading, but I am trying to work through all the books that my friends have recommended me. I've found myself, like, I have a very long TBR, and I do not mind adding to it, so don't worry about recommending me books. I will gladly add more to my TBR. I hope that you guys enjoyed this little deep dive into who I am and the books that I love. And I will probably be doing another like an update to this, maybe in like a year or so, because there are some series that I have been wanting to read for a while. So some of these older ones may get booted out at some point. I think next year I'll do an update and we'll see kind of where all of this lies next. Because there's a lot of series on my TBR that I want to read. That does it for this, though. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, subscribe as well, because that is one of the best ways to support me right now and help me continue to make this content for you guys. But I will see you all next time, and thank you for watching.